Imagine dedicating yourself to years of training, discipline, and sacrifice in order to compete at the highest level of sports, only to find that fairness, the backbone of sports, is being compromised. Picture yourself stepping out onto the court or the field, knowing that no matter how hard you push yourself, the competitive balance is against you due to athletes with biological advantages. When there is an integrity athletic principle, that principle is based off of competitors face each other on as equal footing as possible. That principle is at risk, however, when categories are based off of gender identity rather than assigned birth gender. Sports is about abilities, merit, and discipline, but it also requires structured fairness. When athletes are categorized based off of assigned birth gender rather than their identity, we maintain fairness while also ensuring that no one is excluded. This method allows for everyone to compete while also preserving the integrity of athletic achievement. Today I'm going to demonstrate why this policy is necessary in order to uphold credibility, competitiveness, and inclusivity in sports. I'm going to do this by discussing in detail the problem with our current system, by presenting my own policy to solve this issue, and by finally detailing and visualizing some of the benefits that come from my policy. First, though, I'm going to discuss the problem. The problem is that there are differences between men and women. These differences can be seen through our muscle composition, our bone density, and our lung capacity. These differences impact our performance across sports across the board. And it affects our speed, our strength, and our endurance. When these differences are ignored is when fairness in sports is undermined. For decades, sports have utilized structural divisions such as weight classes or gender categories in order to ensure competitive fairness. Without these structural divisions, sports would be dominated not by discipline or training, but by biological advantages that are beyond any athlete's control. There are also a number of risks that come with ignoring genders in sports, such as the erosion of women's sports, competitive imbalance, and the loss of competitive integrity. The issue is not inclusion. The problem is creating a fair framework for every athlete to compete in. First, I discussed the problem. Now I'm going to present my own personal policy for how to solve this issue. The policy is simple. Separate athletes into categories based on their assigned birth gender, not their identity. This achieves a couple of things: the preservation of women's sports, of inclusivity, and of competitive integrity. This method does not distinguish based on gender identity, but it does not reject based on gender identity either. It simply creates a fair framework for all athletes to compete in. First, I discussed the problem with our current system. Then I moved on to my personal policy to solve this issue. Next, I'm going to visualize some of the benefits that come from my policy. Imagine a world where athletes can stand proudly knowing that their victories were well earned based off of determination, training, and discipline, and not based off of a biological advantage. when we assign athletes into categories based on their gender, we protect the legacies, the victories, and the historical records of our athletes, while also simultaneously ensuring a fair, competitive game for future generations. In conclusion, it is up to us to protect sports. So I implore you guys, whether online or in person, talk about it with your peers to raise awareness about fairness in sports. And something else you can do is encourage inclusivity in other ways, like advocating for co-ed leagues, which account for gender differences, but still allow for a fair game to be played. It is up to us to protect fairness in sports. So I implore you guys to uphold the true spirit of sports, one based off of effort, off of merit, and off of fairness for all. Thank you, and goodbye.